piling on has long since begun. The Miami Hurricanes once again a punchline after an incomprehensible loss to Middle Tennessee State that sent the Mario Cristobal reclamation project spiraling back to square one. When Miami hired Cristobal, there was an assumption that these kinds of brutal moments would be a thing of the past. But there it was Saturday with Tyler Van Dyke's first two passes intercepted, allowing Middle Tennessee to surge to an early 10-0 lead that only got worse as the afternoon pressed on. How did this happen? Well, that'll be a big part of the discussion tonight as we begin a new edition of CaneSport Live. There will be a lot of theories. The team was mentally and physically exhausted after losing a week earlier to Texas A&M and then having a hard week of practice. Josh Gaddis's offensive scheme stinks. Tyler Van Dyke has lost all of his talent and it's gotten to his head. Miami took Middle Tennessee State for granted. But that has nothing to do with receiver Keyshawn Smith being on the field for just 30 of 91 offensive reps, or the team being down to its fifth running back, or more receiver drops, or Tyler Van Dyke appearing totally rattled, or Miami's corners being matched in man coverage against speed receivers that were simply faster, giving them 3 cheap touchdowns. That was only part of what added up to a total organizational failure for Miami, which now must do everything that it can do to bounce back next week in the ACC opener against North Carolina and make everybody start to forget what happened at Hard Rock Stadium on Saturday. We're going to talk about all of that and more tonight as we begin a new edition of CaneSport Live. Hello again, everybody. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com. We welcome you once again to CaneSport Live. As always, it's your show. It'll be driven by your participation. The call-in number is 563-999-3550. That's 563-999-3550. We have 100 open phone lines, plenty of room for you to call in and participate. You hit the 1 on your keypad to enter the queue. We bring you on the show in the order that you land in the queue. So they say in football that you don't let a loss beat you twice. But I can't help but think that the loss at Texas A&M had a major contribution to what we saw Saturday at Hard Rock Stadium. We saw the offense in total disarray, and Tyler Van Dyke looking absolutely horrible before Mario Cristobal decided to pull the plug and bring in Jake Garcia to finish the last quarter and a half in the game, give Van Dyke a rest. I think it was a good move, but part of our debate tonight is going to be what happens next. Does Mario Cristobal stick with Tyler Van Dyke as his starter, the quarterback who has started since early last year, who had 6 300-yard passing games to end last season before everything changed around him? It was only a day earlier that NFL draft guru Mel Kiper was predicting that Van Dyke would be a top 20 pick in the NFL draft in April. Van Dyke's recent struggles have been the most astonishing development of the season thus far. But the problems facing the Hurricanes were way more numerous. If Michael Redding had caught a third down pass in the third quarter, a quarterback change might never have even been made. Miami might have continued that drive and scored a touchdown. The offensive line seemed to have no legs in this game. Picking up a single yard was a challenge. They could not move Middle Tennessee State at the line of scrimmage. The defense was ripped apart, giving up huge chunks of yardage through the air, including touchdown passes of 71, 69, and 98 yards, in which Miami's corners inexplicably were exposed to single-man coverage against receivers who were simply faster than they were. It all was a stunning setback for Cristobal, but I feel certain about one thing. Mario Cristobal is not going to change. Mario Cristobal is not going to lose sight of the mission, and he's not going to compromise one bit. And he's going to be recruiting harder than ever before to try to build a roster that will never allow something like this to happen again. So all of that is on the table tonight on CaneSport Live, so let's go to your calls. The number is 563-999-3550. That's 563-999-3550. You hit the 1 on your keypad if you want to come on the show. All right, sorry about that. So yeah, so much to talk about tonight, guys, and I know it's going to be emotional. I know it's going to be lit. Um, I've gotten so many phone calls the last few days from so many Canes fans out there, and uh, people are so passionate about what they saw on Saturday, and obviously it was very upsetting to everybody, and a lot of emotions have bubbled to the surface, and a lot of the anger is being directed towards Tyler Van Dyke and Josh Gaddis, and um, I don't know where it's going. I have my thoughts on maybe the best way to proceed forward, but we'll talk about that tonight. We'll talk about what you guys think about it. So let me go right to the phone lines: 563-999-3550, 563-999-3550. You hit the 1 on your keypad if you want to come on the show. Let's begin tonight in the 786. You are live on CaneSport Live. How you doing this evening?
Gary, my friend, how are you?
Doing good. How you doing? Everything?
Well, disappointed like everybody else, but I hate to say this, but man, Matt called this from the entire summer on. Good Morning CaneSport. He's been talking about this, and he was totally right. Basically, the majority of this roster was, for the most part, still intact. The infusion of these new kids that came on board through the transfer portal. They've been impactful to an extent, but not to the degree you'd like. And when you look at it, no matter how great of a coaching staff you have, top to bottom, no matter how big of an organization you have that mirrors some of the top organizations in college football like Alabama and Georgia, you could have 10 Hall of Famers. It doesn't matter if the guys that you have aren't of a certain level and ability, don't possess a certain skill set, or they don't have the potential to get there. And in many cases, you're looking at the same 20 guys that are now in year three, 4, or 5, and they're the same players, talent-wise. There's only certain level of development that any athlete can attain, and pretty much they can peak there and they can stay there, and that's pretty much what you have, even though the skill set isn't of the degree you'd like at this level of major college football. But nonetheless, their biggest task, I mean, they're totally on call right now. They've got to find a way to get the best out of the group that they have. And if that means, like you just mentioned, Mario's not going to change. Well, Mario's not going to change, and I can promise you, Gary, you're not going to win more than 4 games. I can promise you that these top recruits that you want to get are going to say, why would I go there that in 20 years they've had a handful of first-round picks at my position, especially if it's a wide receiver? Why would I go there? Look what happens to all the kids that go there. They end up not turning out to be effective. And I think that's where you're looking at, is that if you don't adapt to what you have and join the rest of contemporary football, because you don't have the level of player that you had at Alabama, nonetheless at Oregon, top to bottom, you don't have enough. So you've got to make it where you can be competitive. And that means Kevin Steele is going to have to make changes to his defense as well. You're going to have to mix in a hell of a lot more zone. You're going to have to be able to find different type of blitz packages and pressure packages in the zone. You're going to have to do more defensively than you've done before. And a lot of it's going to be new, because that's not what you've been practicing for the most part. But you've got to change to the talent level that you have, especially when you look at the depth that you do have. Now, we read your story or the blog that Tyreek had. We were being told this morning that he might have a partially torn groin. It was pretty bad. And so you get all these different stories, and you look at the fickle level of talent that you do have, and you just can't imagine that, being able to sustain an entire season. So we're in a situation, Gary, where if Mario doesn't adapt, this is going to get really ugly.
All right.
Quick.
So do me a favor. Define what you consider adapt. What do you consider adapt?
I think you've got to go back to offensively. It's very simple. Offensively, you got to do what everybody else does in major college football these days. You got to spread opponents out. you've got to get the skill set that your quarterbacks have. I mean, I don't know what the freshman really has. I haven't seen too much of it, but you got two guys that can chuck the ball everywhere. And you don't have the offensive line that you think you have, that you can impose your will.
They did at Texas A&M everything. They did at Texas A&M. Why they couldn't do it against Middle Tennessee, I have no idea.
And that lets you know how fickle we are in terms of ability level, that when you can go there on a big screen, on a big time setting of major college football in front of 110,000 people, and you can actually compete and really dominate. And then mentally you're so weak after getting your ass, after losing a game like that, and having a great week of practice, and then you don't show up. That's a testament as to everything that's wrong with this roster. And this is what Matt's been talking about for months now. And I call him Negative Nelly, but he's right. You don't have the consistency that you need mentally, physically from these kids as a whole. You've got bits and pieces. Well, bits and pieces get you fired. That's the reality. In coaching, that's going to get you fired. So if you don't adapt to what you do have, and you don't infuse basic concepts that's going to help, not whether it's Tyler or Jake, it doesn't matter, Gary. Because if you don't have tremendous offensive line play, you can't do the things that Michigan was doing last year. And go back to Josh's first year at Michigan. They were horrible offensively. It took a full year to get things going. Why? Because it's definitely more intricate and more detailed than what these kids have been used to for the last, 3 years or 2 years, whatever, 2 years rather. So you've got to go ahead and make some major adjustments now. Everybody has a 2-minute offense. Everybody prepares and has it. Many moons ago, this old guy who coached at a Division III in Iowa, who made it to the NFL, he had the bright idea at Buffalo, hey, let's go ahead and just do the no huddle. You adapt to what you have. And that's what great teachers do. That's what great coaches do. Nick Saban doesn't win games like the way Mario wants to win games anymore. He really doesn't. He'll try to go ahead and emphasize that based on the weakness of an opponent. But he's going to chuck the ball around, too. He's joined major contemporary college football, and that's why quarterbacks that are elite are coming there now, top to bottom. So either you adapt on the offensive side, and on the defense side, you've got to concede. You can't play man all the time. And it's striking to me because there's nobody better than Coach Steele. That guy is phenomenal. But after giving up a big play against Bethune-Cookman, 3 big plays against Southern Miss, it could have been 4, but there was a penalty that brought that one back. And yeah, nothing happened at A&M because he wasn't throwing the ball deep. He just wasn't. He didn't have his best weapons weren't there, and he didn't have time to throw.
Somebody's not giving Kevin Steele somebody's not giving Kevin Steele a good scouting report. I mean, I can't imagine that if they had known that those receivers were as fast as they were, I can't imagine that they would have put DJ. I mean, DJ Ivy's been getting beat like that for 3-4 years. Like, why would you put him in a situation where he's got to man cover a guy for the length of the football field that's just flat faster than he is and can run right by him like that? I mean, it was so flawed. There were so many things in that game that were flawed, and that's why I call it an entire organizational breakdown. From obviously Mario's got to take the blame as the head coach, but it filters all the way down to the GAs that do the scouting reports and break down the film, and
your analysts,
the coordinators who are formulating the game plan that wasn't really good enough on offense or defense. I mean, it's a complete organizational failure that they all have to collectively take blame for, and they just got to come back better. They can't change it. It happened. Okay. But I'd be curious, since it's you that's calling right now, and I know you have a coaching background, and not necessarily in football, but you have been a coach for many years in your own career, and
4 decades.
4 decades. Yeah. Okay. And I would be curious to know your opinion of what you think happened in general.
I think the combination of losing key players and basically your key players are your alphas that we've always talked about alphas, right? What is an alpha? That's the person or the entity that requires everybody to do what they need to be doing at all times. That they set the tone in everything that's done, right? You might, and regardless of what setting. So when you lose your alphas on offense, there's no doubt that Restrepo, losing him has really impacted the entire operation of the offense, especially the connection with Tyler. Even though Tyler wasn't that sharp in the first two games before he got hurt, you could tell it did impact things. Next thing you have is you've got a bunch of guys that still don't know what they're doing. I think Brett Romberg and DJ Williams earlier tonight were calling it MAs, missed assignments. You've got guys colliding against one another. Okay, that shows that something is not registering, right?
I mean, how does that happen?
Not understanding.
You got to assume they've practiced that play dozens of times. Why are they running into each other?
I don't think they've run that dozens of times with Thad in the game. You know,
that might be that might be a good point.
I mean, you've got to know where these kids have been and where they haven't been. But when you look at all the number of missed assignments, even on defense, there's a ton of them, especially in the secondary. So you add it all up, these kids are not doing their extra either now, because when these guys played in 2001 and 2000 and 2003 and all that, there was no 20 hours. It was just starting. But now there's 20 hours. So that means if you're not getting collectively together, if you don't have ownership as a position group, and you're not meeting somewhere and we're watching film for at least 2 hours outside of it, then you're not doing your part. So the unpreparedness, yes, accountability for the players, not having your true leaders in there, holding them accountable because they're not operational right now. I think when you add all those things up, Gary, and you look at what the coaches haven't done a good enough job of in identifying and truly being honest with what they have in each one of those position groups, and then collectively those coordinators not accepting that truth either, and you continue to try to hammer something that's not going to happen. So if you don't adapt, you know, in basketball we used to call, you know, if we weren't good enough to go ahead and defend 94 feet, we'd try to go ahead and defend 72 feet. If you weren't good enough there, you would go ahead and try to put some pressure in the half court. You always adapt to what you have and the depth that you have. And when you don't do that, I don't care how good of a coach you are. And here's the proof, because we've got what? We've got three NFL Hall of Famers in the operation of this program right now. You've got tons of guys that have been involved at the highest level of football in the world. And it's still happening. But you've got to adapt to what you have.
What's your take on the Tyler Van Dyke situation? What's your take on the Tyler Van Dyke situation?
Gary, I want to use this comparison, and it's unfair to the kid, but I kind of see it. Last year, when the kid from Clemson signed that humongous deal with Dr. Pepper, you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
You know, that kid wasn't the same. He got a lot of money over the summer. He wasn't the same kid when it came to playing. He was heavier. He was definitely more distracted. You could tell something was wrong with him, and it pretty much carried over to the field, because when you look at what impacted him also, he lost his best weapons, right?
Mm-hmm.
Previous year, he lost
his best weapons.
So when you look at
the coaching changed, the scheme changed. He's dealing with one of the weaker positions on the team at receiver. Doesn't know who he can count on from one play to the next. He's got NFL people predicting he's going to go in the first round next year, which I think has him overthrowing at times and trying to prove that he's got a strong enough arm. I mean, that's worth $30 million, man. You get drafted, quarterback gets drafted in the first round of the NFL draft. You're going to make $30 million. I mean, like, enormous pressure, way too much too quickly. He's got agents now. He's got 1 million NIL deals. Who knows how the rest of the team
is. Where's the time for the extra, Gary? Where's the time for the extra?
Well,
where's the time for the extra?
No doubt. I mean,
there's less time for the extra.
There's no doubt. There's no doubt.
So there's less time for the extra.
There's no doubt. And I think, my opinion is it's all combining to put way too much pressure on Tyler Van Dyke that he's not handling very, very well. And then in combination with maybe things aren't totally right with this new scheme and the execution of it, and the coaches in tandem teaching it and coaching it. They all learned it for the first time also. Frank Ponce has never coached quarterbacks in this offense. Kevin Smith's never coached running backs in this offense. Stephen Fields never coached tight ends in this offense. They're all learning all this stuff for the first time, and they're doing this all on the fly, and it's not working real well. And it's easy. Matt Shodell and I have been arguing about this for a few days on Good Morning CaneSport, but I mean, you got a lot of forces that are colliding here, and it's a lot more complicated than, just send Tyler Van Dyke into the transfer portal, who's only the most highly regarded talent at that position that Miami's had in decades. So, I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't have the answer.
Gary, I hate to use a Seinfeld reference here, and I hate to do this, but the worlds are colliding.
There's a lot colliding, no doubt.
And when you look at it, go back and watch his film. Look at the best three defenses he faced last year, okay, especially with Pittsburgh. Look at the confidence the kid had, right? Look at the way he carried himself. Yeah, we always talked about, I forget the gentleman, there's a coach in Louisiana, I believe, and he always brings up some good X and O stuff when he comes on. And he kept on saying, hey, if you really look at it, he stares down guys a lot. It was said last year a lot. I mean, a couple football guys have made it clear. So now that tendency was there, but now with everything that's new, he's not functioning. Yep. He's not functioning at all.
All right, everything.
There's no excuses in this game.
I got to let you go, man.
All right, my friend.
Thanks for being part of the show. Thanks for your opinions. And we won't have a show next week, but we'll see what happens against North Carolina. And I'm sure you'll be back right at the top of the queue after that one to chop it up. So we'll talk to you then. Thanks for being part of the show. All right. We got the comments going on YouTube. And I think JR Barr 2015 is making an interesting point when he says, need a quarterback with wheels, Gary. And it's not that a quarterback with wheels is better than a quarterback who's a pro-style passer, but how good is it to have a pro-style passer if you don't have pro-style guys running routes down the field to catch the ball? And I know it's been a pile-on with the receivers this year. And listen, in fairness, Keyshawn Smith has been playing decently. I thought Frank Latson had a decent day the other day. Michael Redding is still hit or miss, but they just don't have great talent at receiver right now. And you've got this guy that's supposed to be this elite passer who's trying to impress people at the same time. And we've seen some of the throws that look a little bit too hard and things like that. And yes, Jake Garcia comes in, he throws a softball that probably is easier to catch. And you have a lot of forces colliding, but JR Barr points out the idea of a quarterback with wheels. And I'm not a huge believer in quarterbacks running around. Like, I don't like that, but I think it just negates the other talents a lot of the times that you have on the team, but they don't have a lot of those talents right now. You're down to your fifth running back. Thad Franklin, as much as some people get excited about what he's done against lesser competition, he would have been the number 5 running back if everybody was healthy. Your offensive line is hit or miss week to week. We've talked about the receivers. The tight ends are hit or miss, unfortunately, aren't necessarily always playing great. Sometimes they're okay. But there's not a lot of greatness going on offense for the Miami Hurricanes right now. And a quarterback that can do things with his feet on his own probably would be a benefit with this team, believe it or not. Might be bailing them out of a lot of these problems that they have. So JR Barr 2015, I don't know if you intended to make such a great point, but no, I don't think that we're going to see Ja'Cory Brown become the starting quarterback for Miami this year. But I do think you're making a good point that a running quarterback really potentially could have been what was best for this particular team with these particular talents. All right, 563-999-3550, 563-999-3550. You hit the 1 on your keypad if you want to come on the show. Let's go out now to the 917. You are live on CaneSport Live.
What's up, Gary? BK Hurricane.
Hey, what's up, BK? Good talking to you again. What you got for us tonight?
Yeah, what's going on? Man. All right. Real quick. I know everybody's been. I mean, shoot, I don't even know what to say, Gary. Like, you summed it up when you said this was just an organizational breakdown from top to bottom. This loss could conceivably affect the whole year and next year in regards to recruiting. Because if I'm Jaden Rashada, do I want to come to this offense? I'm saying no. Jaden Rashada, I'm not coming to this offense. If you start Tyler Van Dyke, you lose Jake. This was the worst case scenario that could happen. It was like hitting the lotto. I mean, we hit everything on Saturday when we lost. Mm-hmm. We literally hit everything. This loss was just up there with the FIU loss. With every aspect of the game was just a total and complete breakdown. Like, I have no idea who they should even start the following Saturday now, because I know it's going to create a ripple effect.
I mean, I've been fighting with Matt about this I've been fighting with Matt about it on our morning show. I don't see how. Like, listen, I think you got to go through these 2 weeks of practice. You got to see how Tyler Van Dyke responds. Okay, I don't see how you essentially end his career at Miami, because swinging back and forth for the rest of the season is not going to work. We've seen that before. It's a disaster. Okay. You don't want to be doing that. You got to have a leader. You got to have a starting quarterback. This is a guy that is universally considered to have the best talent at that position at Miami in a very long time. I mean, so if you cut him loose after a couple bad games, how do you go recruit quarterbacks in the future and have people recruiting against you say, did you see what they did? First, they ruined their last quarterback. He was going to be a first-round draft pick and make $30 million, and they installed some crazy, stupid offense that was a total failure and ruined his career and made him have to go in the transfer portal and transfer to SMU, where he knew the coach and knew he could go into that offense because he knew it. So that to me is one, issue. And then the other is, like, is it fair to scapegoat, a kid like that? Because that's what it is. I mean, it would be scapegoating him, because there is no legitimate argument, in my opinion, to where you can blame everything that's happened on that kid. I mean, when you look at all the different things going on, and that we don't know, like, is the offense any good or is it bad? How are the coaches working together? How's the team learning the offense? Are the receivers running the right routes? I mean, I could go on for 10 minutes with all these different things that are factors. You've lost all your running backs, so they don't have to respect the running game to the degree that they would. You could just go on and on and on. I mean, there's a whole bunch of things. And
I mean, on that point, Garrett, if Trevante Citizen stays healthy, and we won't have a lot of these problems, because he's the perfect running back for this type of offense. Mm-hmm. A fast, big, explosive kid.
Yeah, so that aspect of it's a mess. I mean, everyone's arguing. I mean, like I said, I've been getting phone calls, people yelling and screaming, and very passionate about this subject. Matt and I debated it on our morning show. I think there were 280 comments on YouTube. People just, so much anger and so much passion for the subject. I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know what the answer is. I mean, what I think would happen or should happen is you go these 2 weeks of practice. If he practices well and appears to be shaking off his struggles, I think you have to start Tyler Van Dyke against North Carolina.
Yeah, I hear you. But Gary, real quick, last point. Charleston Rainbow's not even on an active NFL roster. He could have made more money coming back to school with the NIL deal than he's making now.
Got bad advice, didn't he?
No one cornered this kid. and say, "Hey, listen, we can get you some NIL deals here."
He had a predisposed opinion.
On the active NFL roster.
He had decided before he came to Miami that he was going to be one and done at Miami, and that's what. And he had and honestly, he wasn't going to have a better year than he had last year. He had a great year, but that doesn't mean he was going to be good enough. I mean, he could have found out that his NFL draft status was no place, and he could have evaluated the amount of money he could have made in NIL before he went to a pro camp and tried to make it as a free agent. I mean, he got bad advice. You know, agents, there's agents around all these kids now, man. All these kids have agents, and some of them will give them good advice and some won't.
He could have probably made a cool little couple million and some change this year if he would have stayed.
At least one.
That's crazy. Yeah, he didn't want to. You're right. He just didn't want to. All right, Gary, you can put somebody on. Keep me on.
All right, BK. Great talking to you, man. Thanks for being part of the show. Let's go to the 757. You are live on CaneSport Live.
Boy. I'm so sick of this crap with y'all. These bootleg fans. We ain't got receivers. And you're a good one, too, Gary, because you'll go back and forth. I read some stuff where you said a Royal need to man up. Let me help you with something about that. Terry Mallory, the man up and catch a damn ball. You don't never talk about him. That boy dropped more clutch balls in the last 4 years. Just like you talked about Abbott. He got burnt the last 4 years. Talk about Mallory. Mallory don't catch the ball when he need to catch them. Talk about Stevenson. Yeah, he might got a torn groin, but he can't cover nobody. I said it last week. At the 10 yards, he's trash. Period. TVD, let him play. Let him play Carolina. He don't do good, put him on the bench, he keep him on the bench. We got to stop being soft. And a lot of these players, and James Williams, oh my God, the hype train. Oh, James Williams, the best player on that damn secondary is the man from the West, Kitchen. Kitchen's is undersized. He balls out every game. James Williams, he like to run up and try to steal block people. He make a couple tackles here and there, but he ain't the James Williams y'all hyped up. Y'all done hyped this man up. He's nowhere to me. I need ballers. I'm tired of flying from Virginia Beach to Jay and spending good money to come watch the Canes look like they look. But I'm not mad with that. I'm mad with you because you go back and forth.
Go back and forth on what?
Damn it, we lost. We got beat. You go back and forth all the time. You're talking about this person.
On what, Kane? Kane, what?
Kane, don't block. Wait a minute. No. You said Arroyo don't block. Show me where Mallory blocked somebody.
He doesn't.
I ain't never seen Mallory block nobody. Come on, bro. You keep going back and forth. I can't deal with this mess.
How is that going back and forth? I will agree with you. Neither one of them is a good blocker.
You don't agree with me.
No, I said I do agree with you. I do, Kane. Calm down. I agree with you. Neither one of them blocks anybody.
We all talk about players. We all wrong for that. What the heck? Don't nobody know what's going on. But I agree. Don't bench him. Let him play the Carolina game. But if he does play bad in the first half, they have to do something. And like you said, it's a sticky situation. Nobody want to go tic-tac-toe 3 in a row, keep going back and forth, because then this is going to cause a mess. So let me ask you this. If he plays bad, in your opinion, the first half of Carolina, did you pull him or you keep him in?
You'd have to pull him. You would have to. Now, you would have to at that point. You would have to pull him. It's your first conference game. You got to do whatever you got to do to win.
Okay, so when Garcia come in, and we know he's going to have his ups and downs too, do you leave him in for the rest of the year?
Unless he plays really poorly, I think you have to. I mean, I don't think you can just knee-jerk keep going back and forth. I mean, if you pull Tyler Van Dyke again, I think you are making a statement that he doesn't have a future here. As astonishing as that would be, and I think Mario Cristobal would like to not get there at all costs because the ramifications of it are not great. But you got to do what you got to do to win games. And if he's stinking it up against North Carolina and they think that they have a better chance with Jake Garcia, then you would have to make that move. But I don't think you make it before the game starts.
Sounds like a winner.
I don't think you do it before the game starts.
No, you don't make it before the game starts. No, yeah. I agree with you. You play him.
I think you got to give him. You got to give him a chance to get it right.
Is it the money? I mean, it can't be the money.
It's the money. It's everything, man.
Praised?
It's everything, Kane. Think about
the money.
It's everything, man.
Everything?
There's nothing in that kid's life that's the same as it was 9 months ago when he was putting up 300 yards a game. He's got a new coach. He's got a new coordinator. He's got a new quarterbacks coach. His best receivers are gone. He lost 1,700 yards of production. I can't remember how many touchdowns. So the team around him is not as good as it was a year ago.
It's not the same, but I really don't think the receivers are that. I don't know. My receivers, they good. I'm just gonna say that. Now, some of them passes I seen in the game last week, is there something wrong with his shoulder?
I don't know.
Because some of them passes were like out of this world.
I think he's just not comfortable with what he's doing. I don't think he's reading the defense as well as he needs to. And I think everything's just speeding up on him, and he's making bad throws. We never see that in practice, Kane. I've never seen this kid throw balls like this. I am amazed at what we're watching. I mean, it has never shown up on anything that we've ever seen. It's crazy, yes. But I'll go on and on, man. He's got agents. He's got agents in his ear who want to see him go to the NFL draft next year. I think he's overthrowing, trying to prove that he has a strong arm. He's got NIL deals like crazy. He's done more NIL deals and commercials and things like that, which puts pressure on him to a degree, I think. He's got a lot going on in his life, and maybe the single-minded focus on football got away a little bit, and it's catching up to him a little bit. I don't know. I mean, we can only guess because we don't know for sure, but we sure as heck know it doesn't look the same as it looked last year.
No, it doesn't. And I ain't going to hold everybody that doesn't, because I saw the first pass with the interception, double covered. Then we get the ball back, and then he throws a tip ball, pick six. I'm like, this is crazy. Then he had a couple receivers. They caught balls that were behind them. Now, our receivers do drop balls, but I can tell you this. Out of them passes, them 28-some passes he threw last week, I'm there at the game, it was about 15 or 20 that was bad, and they just got him. Even Mallory, he caught some of them balls that were ugly, that they made it. Were the receivers in the wrong spot? I don't know. I remember one time, Smith was running down the field, and hell, he threw a bit out of bounds. And one time, Clemson was open on the wing, and the ball went to the other sideline. So who knows? But if he don't get it right, he won't be right, and he won't be playing. So that's on him.
Yep.
And as for the rest of it, just come together as one. I ain't gonna hit you hard because you agree with me somewhat, but we good, we cool. Hey, Kane fans, don't even worry. Hey, Kane Meister Kane, it's all good. Because Gary done said at the beginning of the year, I'm the only fool who was saying the playoffs because I love my Kane. Now I'm saying the Coastal, and I'm not gonna change that. But I will tell you this game: if we lose a Coastal game, I ain't calling no more because I got to wait to 2003. It's all my.
Oh, come on, man. Come on, man. I don't know what we would do without your call every week. You got to call.
Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. But I ain't going to hold everybody up. Hey, love and having to see y'all in Carolina. I might not make that game, but I will be there for FSU because I can't stand them son of a gun. Godspeed. I'm out. Take care, y'all.
All right, Kane. Love his calls. C.O. Barney in the YouTube comments makes a great point. We got some good comments going on here tonight. If TVD wants to go pro, you can't just say, oh, geez, the Rhett Lashley offense, which is a very simple offense, by the way. Nowhere, not even close to as complicated as what Josh Gaddis is doing right now. But you can't just make a case that, I can only play in a certain kind of offense. I mean, in the NFL, they change coaches every other year. Your coordinators are coming and going all the time. I mean, you got to be a football player. You got to be able to execute football plays. And so I'm not buying into this whole, the Josh Gaddis offense sucks and all this nonsense. I mean, you got plays, you got, that are designed to get receivers open and stuff. They have to execute. You got to get the ball to them. I understand that if everything's not working right, it makes it tougher. And it's clearly not all been working right. And so it doesn't all fall on Tyler Van Dyke. But there's a lot that he could have done better to make it better. There's no doubt about it. All right, 563-999-3550, 563-999-3550. You hit the 1 on your keypad if you want to come on the show. Let's go now to the 615. You are live on CaneSport Live.
Hey, Gary.
What's going on, man? Who's this?
It's you, Miami alum. How you doing?
What's up, man?
All right, so let me tell you a story from last year. There was a QB who entered this season in Norman, Oklahoma. who was the clear-cut favorite to win the Heisman Trophy and be the number 1 draft pick. Through a couple of games, he was undefeated in his second year as a starter. I believe he was 6-0. He had 10 interceptions and 10 touchdowns and 5 interceptions with a 75% completion rate. Far better than TVD right now. But he looked like shit doing it. Terrible body language, wasn't a leader, sat by himself on the bench. So guess what? Lincoln Riley benched his ass in the biggest game of the year and put in Caleb Williams in the second quarter of the Red River rivalry versus Texas. So with that, I say, why in God's name is TVD above benching? Based on what? So I just want to ask you a couple rapid fire questions. Do you think, if I asked you last year what QB was the future of Miami before Garcia's injury, who would you have chosen?
Garcia.
You've already answered. Okay.
Yep.
Has TVD looked good this year?
Nope. But he looked great last year.
Okay.
He looked great.
Does TVD even look interested in being the quarterback at Miami?
Oh, that's not fair. Of course he's interested in being the quarterback at Miami. Come on, man. Like you guys got to stop piling on. Don't pile on the kid. You think he doesn't want to be the quarterback at Miami? He's probably very frustrated.
I don't know.
I mean, it's not coming the way it came last year. He doesn't have the talent on the outside that he had last year, that he could throw those beautiful passes down the field and look so great. But of course he wants to be the quarterback. It's just, it's he's a young kid.
Oklahoma wasn't working with the world beaters at wide receiver. They had Marvin Mims.
I don't know. Charleston Rambo was our best, and he was a cast off at Oklahoma. So keep it real, man. Keep it real. Let me tell you something. To say that Oklahoma doesn't have good receivers, Charleston Rambo was a cast off, and he came to Miami, and he was the best. He was the best that we had. He broke records.
Their number 2 wide receiver last year was Jaden Hazelwood, and he got cast off to Arkansas. They weren't loaded at receiver last year.
They were loaded enough to where they felt they could do without Charleston Rambo, who broke the records at Miami. I mean, be honest.
Well, that's because he couldn't catch at Oklahoma.
Come on, man. Be honest.
So let me just ask you this: who looked better on Saturday, Garcia or TVD?
For a brief spurt, there is no question that one drive that Garcia looked phenomenal. He looked great. Okay. The rest of the game, I am as big a fan of Garcia as there is. So don't let me come across any other way. I think Garcia. I love Jake Garcia, the human being, the intangibles he brings, the whole thing. But I also understand he's never really played a real opponent in a real game. And if Miami goes into this ACC and doesn't win the Coastal, and they're sitting there with 6 or 7 wins in November, I don't think that's what Mario Cristobal has in mind. Okay. So I don't know what the answer is. I don't know what he is going to do. It's a very difficult decision for him. I think the best path is give Tyler Van Dyke a chance to justify his status as the starting quarterback for the Hurricanes this season. If he's unable to do it, you can't stick with it. You can't stick with it forever. You can't stick with it forever, man.
Why? He hasn't had a chance the first 4 games. He just lost to MTSU. And I live in Nashville. Do you know how bad that is, man?
Yeah, but he didn't do it by himself, man. I mean, they spotted him 31 points. He was partially responsible for the first 10.
Of the team.
I understand. He had nothing to do with those 3 gimme touchdowns. Okay, against the defense.
Here's the concern. Let's say Mario's stubborn. He sticks with TVD. Somehow TVD ups his game this year from being god awful to average, and we continue to trot out an average TVD as the starter the rest of the year.
But how can you make? Wait a minute. Time out, man. Time out. How can you make a case that a TVD that's playing well, that people have rated as the best quarterback to play in this program in decades? I mean, how can you make that statement? I don't understand some of you guys. I mean,
he's not going to flip a switch and go from horrendous.
How do you know he's not?
A world beater.
How do you know? They have 2 weeks to work on it. How do you know? How do you know that 2 weeks of practice of working on all the things that are giving them problems, maybe cutting down the playbook, maybe focusing on the things that he's comfortable with and that the receivers are comfortable.
Doing it against other
but that's not true. Maybe they just didn't prepare well for this game. Maybe they just weren't.
Well,
maybe they just weren't. Didn't have it. Maybe the offensive line really didn't have legs. Okay, alum. They look to me like they had no legs, man. I mean, an offensive lineman has to have legs to get push. Okay, they're pushing with their.
Would you agree that TVD can't go pro next year based on what you've seen?
100%.
For the previous
100%, he can't. I agree. No, absolutely not.
Okay, and I think there's not many people in this fan base, coaches included, who would disagree with the statement that Garcia has more upside than TVD. So if we continue to start TVD the rest of this year, and let's just say he is average,
I don't know that you're right about that, man. I don't know that you're right.
Yeah,
I don't know that you're right about that, man.
Not staying.
But I don't know that you're right about
He's
that.
not staying.
More upside as a quarterback, or more upside as a college quarterback, or like you have to classify that a little bit, man. Like I don't like, and I love Jake Garcia. I'll say it again over and over again. I love Jake Garcia. He is an awesome kid, awesome, absolutely awesome. I don't know that he is going to be evaluated at the same level as Tyler Van Dyke by pro scouts. He doesn't have the same physical ability.
He was certainly rated higher coming out of high school, a lot higher coming out of high school.
I understand, but I'm talking about now.
The other's a kid from Connecticut who played against nobody. And Garcia has he's more fiery. He's more of a leader. My concern is you continue to play TVD. He starts the rest of the year. He comes back next year. You lose Garcia. So sitting here right now.
Yeah, but you can't worry about that. Next year, you're going to have better receivers. You're going to recruit like crazy. You're going to replace the entire they'll replace most of the receiver room between freshmen.
So
freshmen that they'll bring in. Wait a minute, bro. Wait 1 second. You're going to have a freshman class that's going to come in with probably 4 or 5 freshman receivers, and they're going to hit the portal like crazy at receiver. So next year is next year. It's a whole different look next year, in my opinion. We'll see how it plays out. They got to be able to get the guys.
Okay.
But you got to worry about this year first. Worry about this year.
If you start TVD the rest of this year, you're losing Garcia. So if you want Garcia on this roster next year, you better hand him the reins this year because he's not coming back if TVD's coming back. And keep in mind, with TVD's comments about the stadium, fair or not,
yeah, it was bad.
They were taken out of context, whatever.
Doesn't matter.
He has lost a portion of this fan base forever. And with his poor play, he's lost him for good, man. If he does anything bad, he's going to get his ass booed out of that stadium like he did on Saturday. And I'll say this about this fan base, the noise always wins, and the noise wants Garcia. So I'll let others get on the call now.
All right, man. Yeah, thanks for calling in. Thank you for being part of the show. Yeah, it's a hot button. It is, man. It's a slippery situation. It's not good. There's nothing that's really great about this whole thing for the present, for the future. The blueprint of TVD having a great season this year, going into the NFL draft, Jake Garcia taking over at quarterback next year was too good to be true. And now it's not going to probably play out like that. And Mario Cristobal's got some tough decisions to make. And he's more equipped to make it than myself, anybody that's calling in tonight, and anybody else, because he's the one that's there for every single rep on the practice field. And he has a complete understanding of where these guys are and what their skill sets are. And he has to use that data and that information to make the best decisions that he can make for the program. And, us arguing, it's funny, it's fun. We're all having a good time. Matt and I scream at each other every morning, the whole thing. But this is not a good situation. And we're going to have Ryan Collins on the show here in a little bit, who went through this himself, and we'll let him talk a little bit about it. I'm not sure, what's the best, how do we know? Because we're so angry at a loss, that we want the kid to pay the price. I mean, the kid that, like I said, is the best talent at quarterback that this program's had in a couple decades. I mean, it's tough, man. It's tough. All right. 563-999-3550, 563-999-3550. You hit the 1 on your keypad if you'd like to come on the show. Let's go out to the 706. You are live on CaneSport Live. How you doing tonight?
Hey, Gary, this your boy Sebastian, man. I'm surprised I got on, man.
You're on, baby. Make it count. What you got for us?
So I was trying to blow you up on Twitter, but I guess you was.
I'm getting blown up everywhere because,
everything.
Everybody wants to see this kid get scapegoated. And I don't think that's the right course of action. I just don't. I mean, I got to be honest in my opinion.
That's what I want to talk about. I think as I sat back and watched that game, what came to mind is I think we put so much pressure on expectations to the degree that I'm willing to have a 4-8 season just so we can get recalibrated again.
Oh my God!
Like I never had rose-colored glasses. Hear me out. I've never had rose-colored glasses. I mean, if we would have went 8-4 and won a bowl game, that would have been satisfactory to me this year. And I still think that is reachable. Like to me, if we end up 8-4 and we win a bowl game, that to me this year, Mario's first season is a successful season. If you look at when Mario took over at Oregon, I think his first season was 4-8. Go look it up, take a look. But I think he was 4-8. Nick Saban, first year at Alabama, he lost to Louisiana Monroe, who doesn't in the school. There's not even Louisiana Monroe right now. That's a whole different name.
Yeah. And hey, so, we got Jeremiah 2911 in the comments. I mean, listen, he makes a decent point. Like, and he's using Bama as one of the examples. And the truth is, they managed Tua and Jalen Hurts, and they're both now excelling in the National Football League. I'm not ready to say that these two guys are at that level yet, but I mean, you can manage two quarterbacks if they're if they're successful.
Here's the point I'm trying to make. This year, everybody's trying to figure it out. It's just unfortunate that we hyped it up that this would be Tyler's great year and then he will move on. I just think we don't need to put those expectations forward.
I agree, because there was no reason to have that. Listen, he's got no receivers.
Yeah, this hype thing, hear me out. This hype thing with this fan base and these Miami fans are killing this program. Like, I don't want to talk about what we used to be. I want to talk about what we're going to be going forward. And I think that's so important. Man, I love my Canes. I love Chantel. I love that period. But even Butch had a losing season. Even he struggled in his first year. I believe in the coaches that are in the room. I believe we may not have the inventory that we need as far as the team right now, but I think those people, are smart enough to figure it out. I felt our season was in trouble the minute I found out that Trevante Citizen was injured. I'll be honest with you. I thought that we would finally had a back that was going to be powerful, explosive, that was going to overcompensate for a weak offensive line. Do you agree with me or disagree?
Somewhat.
I thought we was going to have a running back. I thought we was going to have a running back that was going to overcompensate for what I call a mediocre offensive line. And so as we go forward and I look forward towards the season, here's what I'm looking at. Trying to save, a person's career and trying to save this and that. Look, it wasn't but 12 months ago, Florida State was in the toilet until they beat us. I don't know if you remember. You remember what it was like in Tallahassee?
Mm-hmm.
Before Florida State beat us? They were horrible. They had a horrible recruiting class. And what did they do? They mortgaged their whole season on a transfer portal. I think they got like 4 wide receivers. I think they got like 4 offensive linemen. And right now, look at where they're at right now. Jordan Travis what was he before he played Miami?
I mean, they liked him.
This thing can turn around. This thing could turn around, and it could turn around pretty quickly is what I'm saying. But what I'm trying to explain to like our fans and like you and Matt is this thing about what we used to be, we need to stop that with these type of expectations and just say, just be real. Like, we agreed this was probably a 8-9 win ball club. I still think we can realistically do that. But if we come up one game short, I don't think that's enough to kind of go into the tank or go into the toilet. Now, I will say this. When we look at Tyler Van Dyke and Jake Garcia, look, I would open the competition up. I would let them both play. I would let them both practice. I would probably start Tyler Van Dyke, but I would know this. If he's tanking it, then we can move on. The whole loss for Middle Tennessee State is not Tyler Van Dyke's fault. I think it was the coach's fault. Here's what I mean by that. If they're burning us and we can't play man-to-man, why didn't we adjust? Why did we stay in man-to-man when we could have just went to a zone? You take away 5 plays away from them, and it's a whole different ball game. But we didn't do that. That's coaching. That ain't the players. That is coaching. You could have changed the whole entire scheme. You could have went to like a zone defense where you could have an extra defensive back. It would have been a whole lot different. But what did they do? They kept playing man-to-man, and we got burnt. We didn't learn our lesson the first time, the second time, the third time, or the fourth time. That's not players. That's coaching.
Yeah, major momentum swings involved there too. I mean,
there's absolutely no when they put Jaden Harris in there. Why didn't we put a safety over the top to him? We didn't have to put him. We didn't have to make him play man to man on the receiver.
I agree. I mean, a true freshman who's hardly played, man.
Do you understand? That is a true freshman. That's why I said that's not the players. That's on coaching. Now, this is the last one I want to make, and then I'm going to go. Because I think Canes Nation need to hear me clearly. We're not going to get to a place where we're going to be competitive and we're going to win ball games until this mindset changes. When we get to when the internal temperature in the locker room gets to the degree that we want to annihilate people more than they want to annihilate us, we will not be a championship program. You have to understand, when I see Middle Tennessee State throw down to you when teams play us, they have so much of a hard-on to beat us compared to us wanting to beat them. And I think the NCAA has bamboozled Miami to believe that if we just be these nicey cut, these choir board football teams, that America would love us. No, they don't, and they never will. So when we get that mentality that we want to annihilate the other team more than they want to annihilate us, then it's not going to change. When North Carolina comes to Miami this week, I want to know, do we want to beat them more than they want to beat us? Because they're not a real good football team. But please understand, when they get off the bus and they get into South Florida, they're going to want to beat the mess out of us. And if we don't have that same attitude, then that's where we lose ball games. You lose ball games before you get on the field.
Yeah. All right, Sebastian.
I really believe that. We talk about it all the time. Practicing, spending extra time, spending extra work, that's why I see that stuff. But keep me on the call.
You got it, man.
And let me know what you think about that.
Yeah, you got it, man. Thanks for calling in. Back to the comments. Mike M says that Jake Garcia is going to make me a believer. I'm already a believer in Jake Garcia. I've already said that if you had asked me a year ago when both he and Tyler were just practicing and nobody was really standing out above the other, who I thought the future quarterback at Miami was going to be, I would have said Jake Garcia. This is a different set of circumstances right now. You've lost 2 games in a row. You're starting your ACC schedule, and you've got a new Mario Cristobal regime here that isn't looking to go 6-6. Like, they're looking to beat some people and get some momentum going for this program for recruiting and everything else. And you have a quarterback who is universally considered the best talent you've had in the program at that position in a couple decades. And I just don't believe that you make a snap move to put him on mothballs without giving him the opportunity to play his way out of the couple of bad games that he's had. Now, if he can't play his way out of it, you can't stick with him forever. Like, no argument here. Like, you're not going to lose games because of him. I don't believe they've lost a game because of him, no matter how angry everybody might be. Jeremiah 29:11 says that I get too caught up in the previous year stuff. I said the same thing with Rozier back in 2018. Hell yeah, I said the same thing about Rozier in 2018. Rozier took you to 10-0 in 2017, and Mark Richt had a quick hook on Malik Rozier in 2018. Certainly was not distinctly different than this situation we're running into. Where did that get Mark Richt? He's going to play N'Kosi Perry over Malik Rozier, who went 10-0 for him the year before. It led Mark Richt to retirement. And that was before we all knew that he was coaching that year with Parkinson's disease. But, that's certainly not something to hold on a trophy shelf as the proper way to manage the quarterback position. You're damn straight he should have stayed with Malik Rozier that year. There's no doubt about it. All right, 563-999-3550, 563-999-3550. You hit the 1 on your keypad if you want to come on the show. Let's go now to the 615. 615. You're live on CaneSport Live.
Hey Gary, this is you, Miami alum again.
Oh, I'm sorry. I already called on you. I'm sorry. My bad. Let's go to the 808. You're live on CaneSport Live.
Hello, Gary. It's Hawaiian Kane again.
Hey, what's up, Norman? Aloha.
Oh, not aloha. Yeah. You mentioned earlier in the show that the coaches have had to learn on the fly, like Coach Field and Coach Kevin Smith. And I just think that if we're going to see the whole thing come together, initially it looks like it's the players' fault. We're seeing for the first time Mallory being asked to block as a tight end. And it's an entirely new offense. So he looks like he's getting lost out there. And it could be that without Restrepo, can we honestly say that the wide receivers are running the precise routes that Restrepo does? And the same can be said with the O-line. I mean, Jalen Rivers is probably our best offensive lineman right now. And so there's challenges, peaks and valleys all over the place. And I also wanted to focus on our strength and conditioning. We were thrilled with the addition of Corey Feld, and he expanded the strength and conditioning staff to include track and field. And what track and field does is it improves, develops leverage. And I think for the most of our players haven't been in a structured system until this season. So everybody has had to learn on the fly. And, with strength and conditioning, previous head coaches did not have the staff that they had now in strength and conditioning. So it's just, everybody's somewhat in its infancy. So that's what I wanted to say. And thanks for taking the call.
All right, Norman, thanks for calling in, man. So Sinclair Daly in the YouTube comments says Texas A&M switched early to Max Johnson. You can't compare. I mean, Max Johnson started 12 games for LSU in 2021. Okay, he had a full season plus of experience in college football games. You can't compare that to Jake's level of experience right now, as much as we all love Jake. Again, I love Jake. Jake is awesome, but he's never played in a real college football game yet. And you're at a delicate place for this season right now. 2-2, starting your conference schedule. You're thinking right now, Mario Cristobal wants to win the Coastal this year. He's not mailing anything in, okay? Tyler Van Dyke won a lot of ACC games last year. Just saying. I mean, I don't think you just throw that in the garbage can and pull the trigger on that because everyone's angry. I mean, it's just my opinion. We'll see what he does. I mean, listen, he may go with Jake Garcia, and awesome. Then we just hope that Jake plays well. I'm sitting here trying to detach emotionally and think this situation through common sensibly. And to me, common sensibly, it makes sense to give Tyler Van Dyke these 2 weeks to get his act together, put him out there against North Carolina. He knows the deal. Got to go out there and perform just like everybody else. See what happens. If he can't get it together, doesn't perform, he's got nobody to blame. And Jake would absolutely be very deserving of getting an opportunity. So, listen, we'll see what happens. It's just, these are all just opinions. 563-999-3550, 563-999-3550. You hit the 1 on your keypad if you would like to come on the show. Let's go out to the 765. You're live on CaneSport Live.
Hi.
Who's this?
This is I have the Cane.
Hey, what's up, man? You've never called before. Welcome.
Yeah, I'm a first-time caller.
All right, man. Awesome. Love first-time callers. What you got?
Yeah, I just had a question. So if we had Garcia starting, and we played like we did at Texas A&M, what do you think needs to happen to beat someone like Clemson?
A lot more, man. They got it. The whole team's got to get a lot better. The level of effort and passion that they brought into that Texas A&M game compared with what we saw against Middle Tennessee, it's unforgivable, not even on the same planetary level. I mean, it's not even worth discussing. I mean, this team was not invested in that Middle Tennessee game. You can theorize why. I mean, I could come up with a bunch of ideas that would be construed as excuses. I mean, I saw a very beat up football team walking out of College Station a week before. Those kids had to be hurting for several days. They're kids. Maybe they didn't want to hurt. Maybe they just figured they're going to walk all over this team. I mean, they got blown out by James Madison. I don't know what was going through their heads. Mario said that he didn't see it coming, but they were not into that game. They were not invested. Was it walking out into the stadium and seeing nobody there? Was it, the rain delay kind of, they relax? I mean, listen, you can make excuses all day long. The bottom line is they weren't ready to play. Probably weren't as prepared as they needed to be for the reasons that we've talked about. And some of them were exposed in situations they probably shouldn't have been exposed in. And the thing just snowballed, man. Like, you could overcome 1 or 2 of those bombs. You could overcome an interception, but you're being asked to overcome 2 interceptions that spots them a 10-0 lead, and then 3 bombs that gives them 21 more. You spotted that team 31 points, man. And then on top of it, you're struggling on offense. I mean, come on, you're not going to win that game. I don't care who you're playing.
Yeah.
You give a team 31 points before you even get into the nitty gritty of the game. Good luck. You got anything else for us?
All right. No, thank you so much.
All right, man. Hey,
I love this show a lot.
Thank you, man. We love that you called in, so do it again. Thank you. 563-999-3550, 563-999-3550. You hit the 1 on your keypad if you want to come on the show. Now we're going to go to the 786. You're live on CaneSport Live.
Gary, do you hear me?
Yes. Who's this?
Okay, perfect. Hey, Gary. I had 2 things that I wanted to switch.
Right, who is this first? Tell us your name.
Eric.
Eric? All right, man.
About the garage opening.
All right, man. Go ahead, man.
The first thing I wanted to say was I feel like the comparisons with Tyler Van Dyke and all the hype, it kind of reminds me of the hype with Stephen Morris coming out his junior year. I mean, the same person, McShay or Mel Kiper, they had him projected as a first-round pick as
No,
well.
they didn't. Not Stephen
coming
Morris.
out of his junior.
No.
Yes, they did.
Stephen Morris was never projected as a first-round pick.
And he didn't do anything.
He was never projected as a first-round pick.
He was projected as a first-rounder.
No.
And then I'll
do a Google search right now. Mel Kiper, Stephen Morris, and see what comes up.
Yeah, please look that up if possible.
Doing it right now.
The other thing I want to say is I feel like the offense isn't clicking because you have Ponce as the quarterback coach, but he's not calling the plays. And then you have Gaddis as the wide receiver coach, and he's calling the plays. I feel like there's just not a connection between both of them right now, and both of their offensive styles also are completely different as well. I don't know if you see kind of the same thing I'm seeing with that, where their offensive styles just don't mesh, and they're trying to work through it right now, because that's honestly what it looks like to me.
Hey, just to answer your initial thing, I'm reading a paragraph here. Noted NFL analyst Mel Kiper Jr. does not have Stephen Morris listed among his top quarterback prospects heading into the 2014 draft.
Okay.
There were different opinions, obviously, but no, Mel Kiper did not. Did not have that opinion.
No doubt.
Well, anyway,
and then about the offenses.
What did you want me to comment about?
No, I don't know if you see the same thing where Gaddis' offense is more of a run style offense, and then Ponce, he's more of obviously the air raid pass offense. He's the quarterback coach, so he's the one mainly coaching Tyler, and his style is the air raid. And then you have Gaddis who's doing the play calling, but his style is more of the run. So I don't know if they're. But
Ponce is coaching Gaddis's
eye to eye with him.
Well, Ponce is coaching Gaddis's playbook. I mean, that's his job. He's the quarterback's coach. His job is to take the.
That's probably why there's an issue.
You take the playbook of the offensive coordinator, and you coach it.
So we can kind of see already why there's some issues. It's not necessarily on Ponce either, because you're just throwing him a whole new style that he's not really used to.
Yeah, well, that's an issue. Maybe he's struggling teaching that different style to Tyler Van Dyke. Who knows? Someone will say, "Oh, it didn't bother Jake Garcia," but Jake Garcia was a couple pass sample size. There's a difference.
No, you could. Both of them struggled in the game. Both of them weren't the best. Besides Jake's first drive where he was throwing the ball and the defense didn't really know who he was. After that he didn't look as worse as Tyler, but it wasn't like it was better offense.
Yeah, it was okay. Like I said, I'm a big Jake fan. But do I think he's gonna?
No
do I think if you switch from Tyler Van Dyke to Jake Garcia, you're gonna peel off 8 straight victories here? I can't say I feel that. I would love to tell you guys I do, and I would say it if I did. Oh man, you switched to Jake, you're running the table. But I don't know. By the way, Stephen Morris was not drafted at all. Okay, he was a free agent signing.
No, I know that.
Yeah. So you can't compare him with Tyler Van Dyke, who's projected to go in the first round.
No, but right now Tyler is projected to go undrafted with the way he's playing.
No, because he's not going to be able to go in the draft. Tyler could play 2 more years of college football.
No doubt. But I'm saying if
he doesn't have to go into
like this, he's for sure not going to be drafted.
No, but he could go somewhere else and play for 2 years or whatever. So it's like there's nothing saying he has to go into the NFL this year. It was just what was being fed to him and what people were saying, and as recently as last week. So I don't know that Mel Kiper would say the same thing again. But you got anything else for us tonight?
No. And I just hope that the team comes together. It's just kind of disappointing. I called during the Texas A&M game. I went. It's like you said, they were so inspired, and then they just came out flat. It's just 2 different teams. You don't really know what kind of happened.
When they lost to LSU,
I'm gonna ride with him to the end. What was that, brother?
When they lost to LSU a few years ago, and I remember that team was feeling pretty good about itself. They thought they were going to be pretty good. They lost to LSU in Dallas, and I don't know that they ever recovered from it. It's like it was, when a team expects to be at a certain level and then has to reconcile that it's not at that level, it can go multiple ways. Sometimes it spirals away for a while, and they didn't have it last Saturday for whatever reason, whether it was, a hangover from Texas A&M amongst everybody in the building or whatever it was. Like, we could speculate all we want. They didn't have it is the bottom line. And they got to get it back. They got 2 weeks here to get it back. And if they come out and play North Carolina with the effort that I saw at Texas A&M, they're going to beat North Carolina. So we'll see, no matter who's the quarterback. All right, man. Well, thank you so much for being part of the show.
Thank you, Gary.
All right. 563-999-3550, 563-999-3550. Hit the 1 on your keypad if you want to come on the show. Let's go to the 386. You're live on CaneSport Live.
Hey, how we doing tonight, Gary?
Who's this?
It's Will again.
What's up, Will? Talk to us. What you got?
All right. I apologize. You called me just as I was putting some food in my mouth. But anyway, I'm just going to make a comment and got a question for you. Number one, I will admit I am highly, highly, highly disappointed. I thought the days when Mario Cristobal was hired, I thought the days of us losing games like this was a thing of the past. If someone had told me what happened Saturday was going to happen under Mario Cristobal, I would not have believed it. I wouldn't. There is no way. And I still ain't got it out the system yet. That's how bad it hurt. That's how disappointed I am. But anyway, moving on to my question. I would like to know how you feel. I think Mario, and this is just my personal opinion, Mario Cristobal is going to need some help. I'm still with it because I remember Butch Davis losing to East Carolina. I remember him getting beat by 50 points at Syracuse. I remember all that. So I'm still with the man.
You better be with him.
He's going to need some help.
You better be with him.
So
if he can't do this, nobody's doing it.
Hello?
Yeah, if he can't do this, nobody's doing it. So you better be with him.
Okay, but my question is, and this is just my personal opinion, he is going to need some help. So what I would do if I was him is bringing in the greatest evaluator of talent that I've seen. And this is your job. Your job is to just evaluate high school football players.
He's got Alonzo Highsmith helping out with that. That's what Alonzo's there for.
Well, I was going to suggest, what about bringing Butch along to give him a hand?
I don't know, man. I mean, Butch is helping out up at, God, where is he? At Florida Memorial or one of those schools. I don't know. I don't know if that would work. It'd be hard for Butch to walk into the building at Miami after being the head coach and having so much success. I don't know that would be a great idea.
Okay, well, like I say, I'm gonna leave it at that. I'm so disappointed. I still ain't got. I thought this was a thing of the past.
Yeah, I got you.
But I do agree with one other caller that called in earlier. I agree 100% with what he said about the freshman running back, Trevonte Citizen. When he got hurt,
it's a big deal.
Say, pretty much, there goes our between the tackles run, our home run hitter. And Parrish has been doing an outstanding job.
But Parrish and Knighton aren't big backs, and they're going to get nicked, man. They're going to get nicked. It's going to be something you have to live with. So, all right, man. Thanks for calling in.
Wait, one other quick thing. There's been conflicting reports. Is Citizen, is he gone for the year or what?
I'm expecting that. I don't think it's going to make sense to bring him back late. I mean, I would, better let him fully heal, come back for spring practice. That's what I think will end up happening. We'll see. All right, man. Thank you.
All right,
Thank you
appreciate
for
it,
being
dude.
part of the show. We'll talk to you next time. Let's go to 954. You're live on CaneSport Live.
Hey, Gary.
Hey, who's this?
JR.
Hey, what's up, JR? Talk to us. What you got?
Hey, Gary. I see you make some decent points. Okay, I get it when you're with your loyalty to TVD, but man,
It's not
just
loyalty.
because you want.
No, I don't have
Well,
loyalty.
by the
I
way,
have
hear me
loyalty
out,
to the
hear me
University of
out, hear
Miami
me out.
winning. Okay, I don't have loyalty to.
Right.
There's no loyalty. Don't call it loyalty. It's not loyalty.
Right,
It's
but you're
common
but
sense.
at the same
This
time,
is the
you're telling
best
me not to call it
quarterback
loyalty,
talent this
but you say that
program's
the
had
people-
in a couple decades, man. I mean, that's a fact. Everybody's
He has.
everybody in the NFL
situation
is
sucks.
evaluating him the same way. Okay, so
The
he is.
last 4 games, you cannot tell me he gives the team a chance to win after looking at the last 4 games. You just can't do it. He did it last year with a different coach, different wide receiver.
Okay,
The
Southern
last 4
Miss.
games,
Wait,
you
all right, time
cannot
out for a
tell
minute.
me he
Time
gives
out,
the
time
team
out,
a
time
better
out,
chance
time out.
to
I'll
win.
let you keep
And
going, but time
I'm
out.
not trying to
Time
destroy his
out,
career.
time out. Let's set
I'm
the
not
table
trying
for.
to do anything like that. Like
Whoa,
you said.
whoa. I will let you keep going. Just slow down. Let's set the table for what we're talking about here. Okay, Southern Miss. Okay, remember, this is a whole new system, whole new offense. Southern Miss comes out, you put 70 on Bethune as you should. Southern Miss comes out in a defense that they had not prepared for at all. Okay, so they're having to adjust to that on the fly. They're already running a system that is new, and now they're having to adjust that system to a defense that the opponent's rolling out that they hadn't shown, that they hadn't prepared for in practice. So yes, they were a mess in the first half against Southern Miss. They adjusted, they ran the ball in the second half. Okay, Texas A&M has an extremely talented defensive backfield. They were down 3-4 guys in their defensive backfield, and you wouldn't have known it. Okay, that will still be probably the best defensive backfield that Miami faces this year. Tyler was trying very hard. He was forcing throws. He was overthrowing, in my opinion, and had a very uneven experience at College Station. The other day, he stunk. No argument. Okay, but what you're saying is because of that, and it may not all be his fault. We don't know. Do you just arbitrarily say he's done at Miami, which is what a large portion of the fan base wants? And all I'm saying is I'm not sure that's the most prudent way to move forward. You know, I'm saying that to me, the most prudent way to move forward is let him practice these next couple weeks, see how he does on the practice field. If he could shake it off and practice well, you got to start him, in my opinion, against North Carolina, because he has almost a season full of experience starting games in the ACC, and that should give you a better chance to win. That's all I'm saying. I want them to win.
Okay. I want him to win too, and other people do. I'm not buying like the bet that what happens on the practice field, because Ivy does great on the practice field, and he still gets tried out there. My next point is I don't care if you're unprepared really for Southern Miss. You should not struggle against Southern Miss. You should not struggle against Middle Tennessee ever. I don't care if they show you a defense you haven't seen. And as far as the good defense they have seen, Texas A&M, no touchdowns, Gary. Again, no evidence to show that he gives a better chance to win, which we have to do now to keep recruits, than Garcia does. Okay? So talking about being fair to TVD, what about being fair to Garcia?
You're asking Garcia to walk out there and run off 8 straight ACC games, or 7 of 8 if you want to eliminate Clemson, without having any experience whatsoever. I don't. Is that fair?
I'm not. Yeah.
If you don't win the Coastal, would you agree?
You got to get in there. At some
Listen,
point, I mean, at some point you got to let him go.
I agree,
and at this point, we keep losing. We couldn't beat Middle Tennessee State.
Okay, but would you agree?
Pull him too.
Would you agree that?
Pull him too.
Would you agree that if you don't win the Coastal this year, the season is a disappointment?
That's exactly the reason why they should put Garcia in next week or in 2 weeks. Exactly my point.
And if they believe he gives them the best chance to run the table and win the Coastal, then absolutely that's what they should do.
That's what I'm saying, and I'm not blaming it all on TVD, although he shares a lot of the blame. I mean, I will tell you, when you're at the game, you were at the game last week. You saw how the crowd reacted to him when he was put in.
What the crowd's reaction has nothing to do with it. Okay.
I don't care what Mel Kiper says he was supposed to do. I care about what he's done over the past 3 weeks. It's not been good.
Okay, but understand the crowd. I mean, people are mad. Okay, people are very angry at what they witnessed last Saturday. Okay, that affects your opinions on things. I mean, when you're angry, you tend to process things a certain way. Mario Cristobal can't be angry when he's making a decision on what to do at quarterback. He's going to have to figure out what the best path forward is and have a conviction on it and proceed. It's going to have nothing to do with with anybody being mad and yelling and screaming.
You're saying it's anger. It's not anger. It's evidence. It's what better last year. TVD better in that system last year. Better in that coaching system. Better this year. Not TVD.
I agree, but is that his fault?
It's just not.
But is that his fault?
I don't care whose fault it is. It is what it is at this point.
Okay, but
it is what it is.
You have to.
Doesn't matter whose fault it happened. It sucks. But he just does not give the team a chance to win right now.
Maybe somebody needs to make a few adjustments to it, right?
Garcia gives you the better chance to win. We got to roll.
Based on what? And I'm a Jake fan, but based on what?
The last 3 games, we just lost to Middle
Tennessee.
No.
What? Based on
5 minutes ago that
listen.
you didn't see the defense before.
Based on what? Can you make a statement that Jake gives you a better chance to run the table here and win the Coastal? Based on what?
You can't do worse than losing Middle Tennessee State the way we just did. You can't do worse.
I understand. That doesn't mean that that's what's going to happen the next game. Every game stands on its own 2 feet. Jake Collette's going to be right. Jake Collette's clapping right now because he loves when I say that.
I don't care what happens in the IB practices because he dominates them apparently. I don't care what happens.
Whoever said he dominates practice, by the way? Where did that come from?
It's terrible. He's a great talent. I don't know what happened to him. Does not give us a chance to win. And you can't call the people out. You see that rightly. It's trying to ruin the guy's career.
I saw a lot of things.
I would love TVD to be great. I would love for him to be what he was last year. He's not, Gary.
I saw a lot of. I agree. I agree with you on that. I agree with you on that. But listen, I saw a lot of things last week that didn't give them a chance to win. I saw 3 easy gift touchdowns against a defense putting man coverage on receivers that are just faster than anybody we got.
No argument from me, man. That defense was a disgrace.
Okay, that's 20. That was 21 points right there. That had nothing to do with TVD.
Man coverage with him.
I agree. It had nothing to do with TVD. The offensive line being unable to block anybody or move anybody a yard had nothing to do with TVD.
Let me ask you this, Gary. If you have an offensive line that can't block, right, and you have a wide receivers you really can't catch, you're like a sitting duck back there.
Correct.
You need a guy who's going to be able to move, make plays out of nothing. Garcia is better than that than TVD.
Garcia has a better pocket presence for sure. He's much better. He's much better at moving around the pocket and feeling the pressure. I'll totally agree on, or I'll absolutely say he's better at that. But the offensive line kicked the crap out of Texas A&M. Okay, so I'm not ready to say that they can't do it either. Like, they've been much better this year. They did not have it the other day for whatever reason. Whether they for whatever reason, I don't know if they were worked to death in practice or what the deal was. They did not have their legs under them, from what I could tell. What it looked like to me last Saturday, they could not move those guys at all. This was Middle Tennessee.
Right. They couldn't get a yard. It
was Middle Tennessee State, and they couldn't move them a yard. Now, I'm not going to sit here and...
It doesn't matter, but against Texas A&M, when they were fantastic, TVD still didn't get it done.
Okay, but I'm talking about the O-line now. They kicked the crap out of Texas A&M.
Right, but what I'm saying is we're just talking about TVD versus Garcia. My argument is Garcia gives them the best chance to win. I'm telling you why.
And I'm going to ask you again,
part of
based
what you say,
on
you're blaming
what?
all these other things why they lost the game, but that's what I want to stick to, and I just don't want it
all right,
or anyone else who are Canes fans and wanted TVD to succeed. Because we want Garcia in does not mean we want to throw anyone under the bus. We'd have been more than happy for him to continue his success from last year. He hasn't done it. He hasn't shown it. He's rattled. It's not going to happen.
I'll ask you one more time before you go. I'm going to ask you one more time before you go. Based on what? Based on the couple of good passes
I just told you. Did you just see the game last week?
I understand. That doesn't mean he's going to play that way the next game.
Based on what? I just gave you 3 things. You want me to rename them?
Dude, are you a Dolphin fan?
It's like circular right now.
Are you a Dolphin fan?
Of course. Yes, Tua. I get the Tua argument.
Well, look at Tua. When you put some damn talent around him, he's a whole different deal, right? You put some talent around them, including the guy calling the plays. Makes a big difference, doesn't it?
Yeah.
All right, man. Hey, you got anything else real quick?
All right, be well, Gary. Thanks for
All right, man. Hey, yeah, thank you for calling in. Let's go to the 419. You're on CaneSport Live.
How you doing, Gary?
Doing good. I'm a little tired of debating quarterbacks, but you know, I knew the minute that switch was made, I'm like, oh man, this is going to be an interesting few weeks.
Yeah, for sure. And it's kind of funny. I totally agree with you as far as Texas A&M. I think beat us twice. Just a week ago, I was so shocked how well our offensive line played, and now all of a sudden I've seen what I saw last Saturday, and it just seems like you just don't know which Miami team's going to show up. But what I'd like to talk about is going forward. Do you think that this is going to somewhat affect recruiting? Because we've seen Tyler Williams. He was on our campus this weekend to watch the game, and I think we were being highly considered. He wasn't there, right before his decision for no reason. I think we were definitely right there in the mix with him. And after that performance, he didn't even want to talk to us at that point. So you knew you lost.
Here's the real deal with Tyler Williams. Okay, Miami. Okay. His prospects for a good NIL deal were obviously there at Miami. Okay, Miami was all in on Tyler Williams. He was going to be able to come to Miami and get a good NIL deal. It made total sense for him to consider Miami. He told Georgia 3 weeks ago he was coming to Georgia. Okay, you can't argue with that. I mean, you really can't. I mean, as much as we would have loved to see him come to Miami, Georgia is the top program in the country right now. He has an opportunity to go there. You wish him well and you move on to the next case. But no, I mean, obviously it didn't help what he saw Saturday. I mean, in any way, from the empty stadium to the way the team played. Yeah, there's very little chance that he was going to choose Miami after that. And it certainly doesn't help recruiting. But yeah, I mean, he was probably going to Georgia anyway.
Okay. Another thing, I mean, since we've had so much talk, I figure I'll throw my 2 cents in on the Van Dyke and Garcia. First of all, I don't have any bias, either way. I'd like to see someone step up and be the leader of this team and succeed. I played that position since Pop Warner all the way through high school. And I'm just going to break it down to you what I'm seeing. It doesn't mean I'm an expert, but I have played the experience. I have a lot of experience with it. I've been through it. And what I'm seeing out of Tyler mechanically is he's way off. In the pocket, you mentioned pocket presence. His pocket presence it's lacking. I mean, he's bailing out of the pocket when he could simply step up and move into the pocket and buy himself extra time. His feet are all over the place. He's overthrowing the ball. I mean, Tyler Van Dyke throws a beautiful ball. And now all of a sudden you're seeing balls come out with wobble in it. And that's a lot of it is he's trying to overthrow the ball. And it's creating a wobble because it's just, he doesn't need to, he's trying to overthrow the ball to impress. Who he's trying to impress, I don't know, or what he's trying to do, but he's pressing. I think he's trying to force the issue to impress people and prove that he's this first-round guy. And I think the pressure is really getting to him. And if you watch, he's overthrowing simple throws. That little throw to Bashard Smith, at the end of the A&M game, I mean, he put a lot of mustard on that ball. I mean, yeah, it has to be caught, but you have to take something off of the ball. And looking at him, he just looks disengaged. He looks lost out there. He's not looking off safety, and not at all. And he's at his first read, and that is it. Even the first pick of last week's game, and I didn't understand the concept of that play, by the way. It was 2 simple outs and to that side of the field, and you had the running back. You had the 2 simple outs, and the quarterback playing the receiver. I mean, it was crazy. I mean, all you had to do was simply just drop off the guy and go pick that off. The Tyler stared down the tight end. You had the running back because there was a blitz. The running back was sitting wide open. Probably to get to him 3 yards, you can go turn it into 8. But my point is, he's just been locking on the guys. He's just been off. And I think what people, ask the guy, what does he see in Garcia? I'll tell you what I saw in Garcia. I see a kid who has really good pocket presence. I see a kid who throws a really nice catchable ball. I see a kid who scans the field and who's going through his progressions. Now, I'm not there every day, so I'll go with whatever Mario says. But if it were me, from what I'm seeing, I would absolutely, I would lean towards Garcia because I think there's something going on in Tyler's head. And I'm telling you, it's hard to shake it when a quarterback is in a funk like that. I mean, to tell you, but he throws a beautiful ball. And when you see him throwing a ball that flutters, that's a scary thing in his head. And he's not engaged right now. And unfortunately, I think when guys look to their leader, they're seeing he's off. And unfortunately, they have the other kids, they tend to follow suit. And I do think that there's an issue right now.
Well,
again, that's on the
I'll
chest.
throw something else out. It's hard to be the
right.
guy making the most money too. I mean, I mean, it's human nature, man. You're the guy that's making all the money. Not that most of them aren't getting paid to some degree, but when you're the guy that's, reeling in the deals left and right, and then you're not performing.
I totally agree.
That doesn't help either.
I couldn't agree more.
NIL's introduced a whole new world to college football.
It does, and I think the pressure of being, first round kid, and then all of a sudden you have a new offense come in. It's a lot to deal with for the kid. Listen, I'd love to see Tyler come in and succeed. I would love to see it, but the last 3 games he's just been so off that if it were me and you would ask me who I would go with Garcia. I think Garcia has a lot of. I think he has a lot of the intangibles to play quarterback, and I think he has the. I really do. I like his pocket presence. I like his leadership. I like his quality. I like the quality ball he throws, and I love how he scans that field and looks guys off.
And his moment's going to come at some point. His moment will come. I mean, but
you know what? That's the coach.
But that doesn't mean you be unfair.
Whatever the coaches decide on.
Yeah, right? Exactly. And then Norman Millman in the chat says a great thing. If TVD looks okay in practice, he's going to start against North Carolina. Hopefully, you hope he performs well. If he doesn't, then all bets are off. And that is absolutely, I think, what is going to happen. And, we'll see. I mean, if he can't get it straight in 2 weeks, and I'm not going to say, oh, it's so much pressure, blah, 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 baloney. It's not too much pressure. You got to get your act together in these next 2 weeks. I don't care if you have to live in the indoor. Okay. I don't care if you're sleeping on a sleeping bag in the corner, and you have a rotation of receivers that are coming to throw with you and catch with you or whatever. You got to do whatever you got to do these next 2 weeks to get your game straight. And if it isn't straight in 2 weeks, then absolutely all bets are off, and you go see if Jake Garcia can be better.
Sure.
Yep.
Now, a question I had: is there any info on any receivers that we're looking at as far as recruiting right now? Is there anything on that?
I think you're going to see it get expanded. I mean, it's not going great. It really isn't. I mean, I think you're going to see it get expanded. I think you're going to see a big emphasis on the portal at that position. We'll have to see what comes up here. There's going to be a lot of movement. Okay. And, Miami's going to go into this last month or two of recruiting, and that the NIL commitment is there. And I think they're gonna, expand their target list. And I think there's gonna be a lot of movement in December, because it's one thing to tell kids, oh, we're gonna take care of you, NIL and all this, but when you're sitting there at the end of November and now you got to add up all the dollars, and then you got to say, oh, geez, do we have all this money? And everyone's not going to have all the money that they've promised. And there's going to be, there's going to be movement in December in all directions. Guys are going to, the value of some guys is going to go down. The value of other guys is going to go up. And money is a big deal right now in terms of where kids are going to school.
Sure.
Yep.
Now, there was a kid, William Foles, down in that area. Was it a speed issue that led us?
Yeah, I mean, they are not going to keep.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, they are not going to keep filling the roster up with players that they don't feel can help them become elite. And there was a time here in the not too recent past where kids that are like on the bubble like that would have gotten offered and would have been taken. And we've got several of them on the team right now. They don't help you win. They take up spots. Okay. You had 21 kids leave the program last year. I think you're going to have another 21 leave this year. Okay, if you look, I don't know if you paid attention to our State of the U series in the summer. If you look back through the recruiting classes of the last 5 years that are making up this team, it's a disaster. By the way, Miami's on self-imposed probation right now. Everybody, just so you know. I mean, we are on probation. We're on probation right now, on top of everything else that we're sitting here fighting about. All you got to do is look back at the last 5 years, what's happened with the recruiting classes, how many misses there were, how many guys were taken that shouldn't have been taken. Mario Cristobal is not going to do that, but he's not going to be rigid either. Like there's a linebacker by the name of Stanquan Clark who's at Miami Killian. They were evaluating him at Miami Killian. They made a decision. Stanquan is probably not going to move the needle for us, and they didn't pull the trigger on him. Well, he transfers to Miami Central, goes into a different defense, different coaches, is playing enormously better, and now they've recommitted to him. And they've said, okay, Stanquan, you've earned your way back onto our commit list if you want to be there. They are valuing their scholarships much greater than has been done in the past. They're running the program the way it's supposed to be run. Hopefully, at some point, we will start to see the results of that.
All right.
All right, man.
I have, Gary. Thanks for having me on again.
All right, man. Thank you for being part of the show. 563-999-3550, 563-999-3550. Hit 1 on your keypad if you want to come on the show. Let's go to the 786. You're live on CaneSport Live. Hello. 786, you with us? Going once, going twice. All right. I just took a look in the green room, and I got a special guest sitting there who wants to do a little bit of advanced prep for the Lamar Thomas show tomorrow night, and that's the voice of the fan, Bruce Warner. And Bruce, I don't want you to use all your material up tonight, but give us some of your general thoughts on what you've been hearing this evening, and just your general overall viewpoints on what's going on with the program.
Well, it's not easy, I'll tell you that. Reading the comments and the posts on CaneSport and these comments here on the board, it's incredible how many different opinions you get about the same thing that we all saw, which was really disgusting. It was horrible. But I want to address a few things. One, the last caller, he talked about pocket presence. He talked about locking in on one receiver, footwork, which we talked about that the other day on Lamar's show. We had Kelvin. So did anybody talk about any of these things last year about Van Dyke? I don't remember hearing any of this stuff. How could all of this happen in one off season? I could see if he was somewhat inaccurate, but all the rest of this stuff was okay. But it's all of these things. Where was this stuff last year? So
new system, new coordinator, new quarterback coach, all your top offensive production out the door.
Yep. And Restrepo.
You lost all your running backs. You're down to your 5th running back. I mean, nothing's gone right. You lost your security blanket receiver in Restrepo. I mean, it's pretty obvious why what's happening is happening.
No, but I don't agree, because what I just said to you has nothing to do with if they're open or if they're not open. If you're going to lock on one guy, that's got nothing to do with it. That means your first guy, if he's not open, you're screwed. And that didn't happen last year. I saw him checking down.
Field, Bruce, how does it get through the practice field? I mean, like, that's stuff that has to be worked out on Green Tree.
Yeah.
You can't lock in on one guy. Like, you just can't.
Okay. So, and then I do agree on Van Dyke. I think if he doesn't practice well, he's not even going to start. And to me, that would be a statement from Mario. I gave you a chance in practice. You didn't do it. I can't put you in the game. I don't care how much I like you. Now, if he does do well in practice and some of these things are corrected, I do think he's going to start with a very, very short leash. That's my opinion on Van Dyke. I don't know what the hell happened to him, but it's a lot wrong.
Yeah, it won't be a publicly stated short leash, obviously.
No, of course not.
There's no reason to do that. But listen, yeah, I mean, I agree. That's what I've been saying. I mean, everyone's mad at me, but like, that's exactly what I expect Mario to do. Give him an opportunity in practice to get himself right. I don't care if it means practicing 24 hours a day, sleeping in the indoor. Like I said, you do whatever you got to do to get your crap together, and you come out to practice and you play like the Tyler Van Dyke that we know you are.
But I don't know if these things are correctable in 10 days.
They are. It's in his head. Most of it's in his head.
So let's talk about something else. Everybody, a lot of people complaining about, and you made comments that they were exhausted from the game. That's not an excuse. That's not an excuse. You know what? It is an excuse. I talked to at least 20 former players in the last 4 or 5 days, maybe more. Guys that have rings on their finger from playing at Miami. And you know what they told me? The week before and definitely the week after they played Florida State, they played like crap. That's just human nature. They're not machines. They're not robots. They're people. So when I talked to Leon and Russell and all the guys I know, they told me the same thing. They were flat as hell because they were so jacked up for Florida State.
Sore. And you've been sore the whole week. That was, trust me, that program was a mash unit last week. And there were guys playing hurt the other day. And when you're sore and hurt and you're playing, and it's not an excuse because they're learning the hard way that you can't do this, but you're playing Middle Tennessee State and you're expecting to just walk through the motions and blow them out. It's hard to flip the switch when it's like, oh crap, we just spotted them 31 points.
Look what happened to Miami when they played BC when they won the title. They almost lost that game up there. That was close. That was really
a real team, though. That's but
you have a lot of talent. It's still human nature, and some of the things. Gaddis, we heard what Kelvin said. I can't disagree. When I saw that defense the other day, they were in that box. And I thought of the Appalachian State game they played a few years ago on the road when they did the same thing to us. So what did Kaya do? Every 20 throws in a row, quick outs, get the ball, get those guys out of the box, get them spread out. They didn't do it. They kept on running the damn ball up the middle. They didn't do the tight end crossing routes. They don't throw any screens, all the things that you do when there's pressure coming from the middle. They didn't do it. Now, that's not a player's fault. That's Gaddis's fault. And I'm not going to change my opinion. I'm very worried about his play calling. So that's just my thoughts on him. Do you know what's going on with Rooster and Parrish? Are they going to play next week? Are they banged up or they're not even going to practice?
Yeah, I think they'll both be back. I think they were pretty beat up, And
we need those guys. You can't go with Franklin.
They tried to go a little bit. Rooster clearly wasn't right. He fumbled the first time he touched the ball. He
just seems like an injury-prone guy. Cheney's another
little running backs. They're small. They're small. And you're playing. They just played in a rough physical game. I mean, could Parrish have played any tougher and more physical in College Station?
Yeah, and again, we try to analyze our talent, and you said it many times. We've said it on other shows. There's really nobody on our defense or our offense that scares anybody. The other team's offensive coordinator doesn't say, you better block this guy or else we're going to get killed. There isn't anybody like that. We don't have the talent level. I'm not going to sit here and blame it on Manny. That's the talent he brought. This is who Mario got. He's made some transfers. He's got some good players that are helping, but they're still not big names, big type. This is too soon for us to go 10-2, I think. And win the Coastal. Although, as far as I'm concerned, we could still win the Coastal. None of these teams are that good.
No.
So we got to straighten out that quarterback spot. We brought this up the other day after the game. How is it that they play Texas A&M that tough and then they don't do it again the following week?
Well, you just said one. I think the theory you brought to the table is absolutely. They look to me like a mentally and physically exhausted football team. That's Hey, stay right there, Bruce. Greg, our favorite caller has just dialed in, and I don't want the show to go by the wayside without.
Could I stay on with him?
Absolutely, stay where you are. Hey, Greg, welcome to CaneSport Live. How you doing tonight?
I'm good, Gary. Just a couple quick points. Bruce just brought up a point about he brought in players from the portal. We brought in 12 players. How many of them are making a difference? I say 3. Parrish, Messidor, and Jackson. Who else is doing anything to help the team? You explain. Give me a name.
Well, I'm not saying they're helping the team. They're there on the team. And if you've heard me talk, and I repeat it every time we do these shows. If we don't have defensive tackles, and you heard Russell Maryland say it, and all these guys, we don't have the defensive tackles to pressure the middle and to stop the run. To me, we have 8 defensive ends. 2 of them or 4 of them are disguised as D tackles, Greg. And that's not going to win you anything.
Jackson and LT, I mean, they're just not playing enough reps.
But LT,
I don't understand.
he
How
takes
does
off
LT
5
only
plays.
play 23 reps? I don't understand that. Like, and maybe it's because they're annoyed that half the time he doesn't do the right thing or whatever. But like, that guy's got to be on the field, man. I mean, when he is doing the right thing, he's a difference-making player, and we don't have too many of them.
Right. I don't hear them calling out Hunt's name that often. I don't hear them calling out, the Miller. These guys aren't doing anything.
Harrison Hunt, noticeably to me, was mailing it in Saturday. I was watching him. Not even close to enough effort.
Correct.
I mean,
no, the kid. I think he has to play. Taylor. He's got to play a lot. If he makes mistakes, hopefully he learns from them. But to sit on the bench, he can't help you.
Harvey, Messidor, like Jackson, Taylor, those guys got to be on the field, man. I mean, unless they're exhausted, like they don't come off the field. I mean, they are weakening themselves because they're over rotating.
Yeah.
I like, Jake Lickenstein as a depth filler, Moultrie as a depth filler, but like you got to play your best guys because you don't have too many best guys on this team. This is not a great roster. So you can't afford to have Keyshawn Smith playing 31 snaps when you have 92 offensive plays. Right. That is ridiculous. Okay. And I feel bad for whoever was responsible for that, but I assume that they noticed it. And obviously that's not something that Mario is going to be on top of during the game. He's managing the whole game, not the flow of personnel. There's assistants and GAs and stuff that are responsible for that. But somebody blew it the other day when, to me, probably the one guy that's your most altogether receiver is not out there almost every play. I mean, they played the offensive lineman every play. Whoever was in charge of offensive line, Coach Mirabal, he knew he needed his best guys out there. Those guys went 98 plays, the offensive lineman. That's amazing.
Well, that's got to fall on Gaddis, Gary. He's the wide receiver coach and the offensive coordinator.
Gaddis is calling the game. There had to be somebody else in charge of the rotations. I don't know. I'm not going to speak out of school. I don't know who it was. I just know that that's a disaster. Okay, when your quarterback's struggling to begin with, and his best receiver's not on the field, and his other best receivers on the injured list.
Yeah. And Redding, I thought he didn't have speed, but now his hands are bad too. He made 1 or 2 good catches a few weeks ago, but now he can't catch it right in his belly.
Hit or miss. Go ahead, Greg. What do you say?
Gary, you just made a point a little while ago that the team was exhausted mentally and physically. How come a Texas A&M can go up and beat a top 10 team the next week? They weren't physically and mentally beat up.
They won. They beat us, though. They beat us. They may have a different attitude. They beat us.
They won, and they have a better roster, Greg. They have recruited very well. Their roster compared to our roster right now, there's no comparison.
I don't know. You just kept telling me we dominated them.
We did dominate them at the line of scrimmage. We did. It was a credit to the coaches and the players. But you can't do it 1 week. They learned the hard way. You got to do it every week.
Who has a better roster, Gary? Miami or Wake Forest?
That's probably a tough call, man.
What was the question? Who's better?
Miami or Wake Forest? Wake Forest is pretty good.
I put my money on Wake Forest if I had to.
Wake Forest has been running their program way better. Greg, they've been running the program better for the last 4 or 5 years than Miami. I'm going to rerun those. I know. I'm going to rerun those State of the U stories from this summer. I mean, if you take a look at what went on here in recruiting the last 5 years, it'll answer.
We got a bunch of 4 and 5 year players. We don't have 4 loaded with 4 and 5 year players.
It's just all the mistakes that have been made. I mean, you're playing with half recruiting classes every year. It's self-imposed probation, man.
Okay, last year we were 5-3 in the Coastal Division. and we lost 3 games by 3 or less points. We could have won every game in the Coastal with the legendary Manny Diaz at the helm. What is the excuse going to be this year?
Hopefully there won't be an excuse. Hopefully they figure it out pretty quick here. They got 2 weeks.
Well, Greg, do you agree that if they don't beat North Carolina, they're finished in the ACC?
I totally agree. Yeah. Absolutely.
I'll tell you this, though, you guys. Pitt has a real pussy schedule. They don't play Clemson. They don't play Wake. They don't play NC State. I don't think they play Florida State. So they really have nobody. And if we're not within 1 game of them and we play in the last game of the season, we're not going to win it. So we have to beat North Carolina, and we have to run the table. If we lose to Clemson, we could still beat Pitt and win the Coastal. So we can't slip up. It starts – our ACC title game, you guys, is a week from Saturday, not in December. We don't win that game, we're history. Do you agree?
All right. One last point. If Tyler Van Dyke goes into the transfer portal, does he have to give back the NIL money?
If he can't honor the contracts. But my guess is he'll get NIL money at his new destination too. So let's take 1 day at a time, man. Right now, let's hope he gets his crap together and wins. Pittsburgh plays Georgia Tech, Virginia Tech, Louisville, UNC, Syracuse, Virginia, Duke, and Miami.
That's what I said.
Yeah.
I looked at it. That's nothing. They might as well play Piper High School.
Yeah, they got a pretty easy path.
Yeah, we can't afford to lose anybody. If we lose to Clemson, we can't lose any more games.
Yeah, I agree.
Because I don't think they're going to lose to these teams.
All right,
they're horrible.
All right, Greg.
Good talking to you.
Thanks for calling in, man.
Talking to you.
Yep, you got it. All right, last call for phone calls tonight, 563-999-3550, 563-999-3550. Hit the 1 on your keypad if you want to come on the show. Last call for phone calls. So, Bruce, you'll be back tomorrow night for the Lamar Thomas show, but any parting thoughts for this evening?
I mean, I know who Lamar has tomorrow. I know who he's got, but it's just every day I keep looking at CaneSport and I keep reading things, and it's hard sometimes to believe that this happened. We are not prepared for this, not the way it happened. So I'm still in a state of shock, and it's been 3 or 4 days already. So tomorrow we'll have another show with Lamar. We'll get some opinions. We'll have more of these opinions, but there's no easy answers to this. And I'm not going to sit here and throw Mario under the bus because I won't.
No,
but I think he'll be
the first to say it starts with him. He's not looking to deflect.
I know that.
He's not looking to scapegoat his coaches. He's not looking to scapegoat his players. He'll take all the responsibility that needs to be taken.
All right, I'm going to say something on the show, and I don't know if it's going to come back to me to bite me in the rear end. I did that book signing thing with Leon a few weeks ago. Leon told me that he spoke to Mario. Mario was like, "Oh my God. That's what he said." Now, you can interpret it any way you want. This was like it happened. He said this like April or May after spring practice. He says, "I am having a hard time getting these kids to work." That was the word, because that's Mario's word, work. So you know what? He still might be. And it's not so far-fetched to see what happened the other day, especially coming off the A&M game, that they weren't mentally into it. This is not the old Miami team. When you walk out in the field, even if you're flat, you still beat these guys. We've had those problems before over the years, but this is something else. I don't know if they buy in yet. There may be a certain faction that do, but the rest of them just aren't good enough to play at Miami. And this is going to keep going for the rest of the year. So you're right. We're going to be involved in a lot of close games. There's not going to be any cakewalks, no matter who's the coach with this talent. And we got to figure it out. And hopefully in the next 10 days, they do figure it out. And we show up and we play NC North Carolina tough, because we owe them an ass kicking. They've been beating us lately really bad. And it's got to stop. So I'm not throwing the season away. But that game is critical as far as I'm concerned. That's my thoughts, Gary.
Yeah. All right, Bruce, we'll see you tomorrow night for the Lamar show.
Yep. I'll be wearing my Canes wear outfit. This is my wife's shirt. Carpenter's tribute.
Thanks.
All right, guys. Be well, you guys. And everybody stay safe, please. This is not good weather.
Thanks for popping by. All right. Let me make some. I mean, I'm looking at some of these comments. Okay, come on, guys. So, my opinion about the quarterback deal has nothing to do with Life Wallet, TVD's endorsement of Life Wallet. I'm looking at it. I'm detaching emotionally, and I'm looking at it from a sensible point of view, not looking to cut somebody's throat or anything like that. And like I said, the prudent thing to do here is see if he can work his way out of it in practice, and not sit there and say, "Oh, geez, practice means nothing." No, it doesn't mean nothing. And no, contrary to some conversations, it's not like DJ Ivy never gets beat in practice. Come on, man. I mean, some of you guys just say stuff. I mean, of course he gets beat sometimes in practice. DJ Ivy's been getting beat on fly routes his whole career. Now, not under these coaches, but part of it is you have to know that's not something he can do. You can't leave DJ Ivy on an island by himself on the outside. I don't care how well he played. And he played great at Texas A&M, covering those receivers and those crossing routes and the slants over the middle and all that. He did phenomenal. Okay. But he wasn't asked to cover a speed receiver that's just flat faster than him, the whole sideline all by himself. It was flawed, period. But no, I just, my opinions are based on just what I think the sensible thing for them to do moving forward. And I understand the anger. I know how mad everybody is. And you were blindsided on Saturday. You felt that with this new regime in place, that things were going to be significantly better, and you were not going to have to experience what you experienced Saturday. 100%, you are 100% right for feeling the way you feel. But it doesn't mean that you cut off a 20-year-old kid's neck for it. You have to give, this kid is a talented player. He's a talented kid. The outside world, like I said, sees him as the most talented quarterback that you've seen at Miami in a long time in terms of potential to play in the National Football League. You have to give him a chance to get it right. If he can't do it, you move on, period. You don't wait forever. 2 weeks is plenty of time. 2 weeks is like 2 years in this world, okay? 2 weeks is a very fair amount of time to get your head screwed on straight, put in the extra time in the film room, put in the extra time with your coaches, make sure you know what you're supposed to do on every play that's in the game plan for North Carolina, be a leader, get the receivers together for extra work, and come into that game like it's the damn Super Bowl, okay? And I think he will get the opportunity to do that. And if he doesn't get it done, then all bets are off. I just, that's the way to look at it. And so we'll see what happens. That's what I'm expecting to happen, but it is a opinion. Mario Cristobal has not weighed in on that subject to this point. All right, let me just double check the phone lines here. I think we got one more, so we'll make this the final call of the night. Let's go to the 323. You're live on CaneSport Live.
Hey, Gary, how are you, man? This is Rob Dog.
Hey, what's up, Rob? How are you, man?
Good, my man. I'm a big fan. Been a big fan for a long time of you and your callers. I mean, Sebastian nailed it on the head. I think we're living in the past. We have to be looking forward. But, Gary, I think it's a big combination. I think it is. I think it's the receivers, but also our coaching staff, man. I feel like we also run an antiquated offense. I think Nick Saban used to do this until he hired, what's his name? Sarkisian, and he hired Lane Kiffin. I think they need to open this up a little bit. I just don't know if Gaddis is the right guy. And I think our receivers are also getting way too much blame. I know they're dropping balls, but who's our wide receivers coach? It's Gaddis, right? So these kids are not being taught in practice. Are they looking at the right direction? Are they catching with their hands? Are they? I just think it's a mess right now, our offense, and I do blame it more on the coaches than anything else. Does Middle Tennessee State have more talent than us? A wide receiver?
No. I think those couple kids would be the best receivers on this team right now. Absolutely.
Middle Tennessee State, you think?
100%. Those kids that burn them on those deep balls, they would be the fastest. They would be the fastest receivers on this team.
Okay, so then our portal. I know we criticize Manny a lot, and I'm not a Manny fan. I've been on the Cristobal bandwagon for a long time. But are you kidding me, Frank Ladson? Listen, if we are not getting the Bosa brothers from St. Thomas Aquinas, I live in California right now. I've been living here 25 years. I'm a Miami fan. My dad lives there. I'm going to a North Carolina game. I'm spending over $2,000 to go there, to go see Miami, because I'm buying into the whole Mario thing. But the reality is, if you're not getting the Bosa brothers, if you're not getting Amari Cooper, and I'm not talking about NFL Amari Cooper, then why are we going back and getting leftovers from Clemson? Why are we getting the Frank Ladsons? You know, I just didn't understand what we did in the portal.
There wasn't much in the portal.
There
wasn't much there for there was not a lot of receivers in the portal. They didn't have a lot. The Addison kid from Pitt that went to USC. They tried to get him, but there just wasn't much there. They wanted receivers in the portal. They're just, it was slim pickings, man.
So how do you see our wide receiver situation moving forward? I just don't see anyone wanting to come to Miami with this offensive display we're showing out there.
It's going to be recruiting, man. It's they've got Ray Joseph. They've got Robbie Washington. Those are two kids I think they feel pretty good about are going to help. And they got to find a few more and then try to get a few more than that in the portal. Try to bring 6 new receivers into the program.
I'm just so hurt that we lose these 2 Williams kids. I'm just like, I don't even know, man.
I know, man. It hurts.
It's just, I don't even know what to say. Anyways, I'm going to let you go. I know you had a long night. I'm a huge fan. I'm going to be calling more often. And I think Sebastian nailed it on the head, man. We got to stop looking backwards and start looking forward, man. Let's stop putting too much hype on this thing right now. This was happening with Miami Dolphins too. They win 3 games. Now people want to crown them.
Well,
I think people just need
and look what happens when you inject some talent. I mean, like with Tua, like all of a sudden you give him 2 all-pro receivers. Wow. Now all of a sudden they're saying he's as good as just about any quarterback other than the top couple in the NFL. I mean, he's the talk of the league right now.
And I do agree with that. That's why I want to win these games coming up, because I did see that IMD Academy game and I saw some of the guys we have that we've recruited and our O-line guy and our tight end Riley, and they looked pretty good out there last week. So I really don't want to lose any of these kids moving forward, man. We got to win some ball games.
Yeah. All right, man. Thank you for calling in. Do it again.
All right, Gary.
You got it.
For sure, man. You have a great night, buddy.
You got it. And thank you for the nice words. E. Taylor. I don't mind. I love being called out. I don't mind debating with you guys, but how can you say that I've said nothing tonight regarding Kevin Steele? I've sat here. I've probably said at least 5 to 10 times how flawed it was that they took our corners that aren't fast and let them get matched up man to man against the speedy wide receivers that Middle Tennessee State had. They're not a great team, but they did have some very good individual players, like most teams today do. Southern Miss had a few too. Middle Tennessee State also had a defensive end or two that could play for the Miami Hurricanes. But I have said many, many times how flawed that was, and they spotted them 21 points by doing it. I mean, like, I'm not quite sure, what you're looking for. So anyway, just thought I'd address that real quick here as well. Let's see. I think we've pretty much covered it all. So that's going to do it for the show for tonight. We'll be back tomorrow night with the Lamar Thomas Show. That should be fun and interesting as well. And we'll keep talking about all these issues and see how the off week continues to progress and get into North Carolina game week next week. So thank you to everybody that called in and participated tonight. We'll see you tomorrow night on the Lamar Thomas Show. Have a great night, everybody.